Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being present here today for Entrepreneur India's next installment of the Resilience series. Today, we are going to talk about the logistics space in the country. I'm Saurav Kumar, Editor Special Projects Entrepreneur India, the moderator for the session. Let me start by laying the ground rules for our attendees first. The discussion will go on for 45 minutes, and this will be followed by a Q&A session for the next 15 minutes. If you have any questions during the course of the discussion, you can post them through the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. If you're watching us live on Facebook, you can post your questions in the comment section. Mention in your question if it is directed to any specific panelist. We'll take up the questions post the panel discussion. Uh, Let me now introduce our panelists for the day. We have with us Mr. Ishpreet Singh Gandhi, founder and managing partner, Stride Ventures. Mr. Siddharth Agarwal, Vice President, Corporate Strategy and Planning, Ecom Express. Mr. Gautam Kapoor, CEO and co-founder, Shiprocket. Mr. Anjani Mandal, CEO and co-founder, Fortigo. And Mr. Pushkar Singh, CEO and co-founder, Let's Transport. Welcome, everyone. Uh, just to put in perspective the topic of discussion today for everyone, India's logistic cost as a percentage of GDP is around 14%, which is way higher than 9.5% in the US, 8% for Germany, and around average 10% for the developed economies. And now with the outbreak of the pandemic, people are increasingly going to be dependent on deliveries as per their convenience. Also, if the economy has to grow, the logistics space across the country, be it rural or urban, has to become organized. And we should know, despite various players being in the segment remains largely unorganized. Also, there is a huge disparity in mode of logistics, wherein an overwhelming 61% is with railways compared with international benchmarks of 30% maybe. So I'll go to our panelists and we'll start from the current situation that we are faced with. So when this, what were the major changes that you witnessed as the pandemic broke? For the logistics sector, and what does it fundamentally change the way logistics was done in this country? So, Anjani, if I can start with you first, please.
So while the topic is something which can start at an organizational level and be to complete immediacy of the situation, I'll start responding to you with the immediacy of the situation. So the net result of this 100 days are over now, starting from where we were, more than 100 days. And we recovered very fast. We lost 2 days of work, and they were the first 2 days, which was the 25th and 26th. 27th, by the time we were moving forward, we were, pretty much singing along and serving each and every customer if they were open. We had chosen the segment such that we are risk mitigated as such, which is a very large part of our resilience strategy overall corporate-wise. And we realized the situation. The first thing that we did was take a position on where we are in terms of the crisis situation and what is the outlook. At that point of time, the discussions were leaning towards, oh, the summers will come, it will solve everything. When the heat increases and we'll be all right. So we said by May, we should be all right. By the time the month ended in March, we said that no, this is not going to go away. This will be definitely there till June. And if we are able to catch a couple of weeks prior to the monsoon onset in serious fashion across the country, then the combined effect will not take place. And we will be able to beat it, and by June we'll be normal. Okay, that's a position we started with, and we planned accordingly. But the most important here is stick to the fundamentals of the business, and your business is made out of 3 things: people, the technology which are there, and whatever are the processes you have set up. And the interest that you have to take care of are the people first, your customers, and your suppliers. If you have got in the two dimensions all of this tapped, you should be pretty all right, because that's what we did. In order to engage the persons, we started having two function calls, one for the business and one for operations. Across the country, all our 35, 40 offices, each and every person, we would spend together to understand how the situation is emerging, whether each and every truck is in a safe position. And at that point of time, we would have maybe about 900 trucks which were on the move. But each and every one methodically, because it is technology enabled, is what was tracked, and the task first was to bring it to safety. And then after that was to engage with the customers. So to date, it has been now more than 100 days, 6 days a week. We have calls every day. Starting from June, it has become 3 days a week, alternating between operations and business. But every day we have had calls 2 to 2.5 hours at the end of the day after it has ended, where we summarize the situation so that the whole country knows exactly whatever is happening anywhere. So the awareness of what is likely to be, we operate in a network. Long distance logistics is where we are. It's a network. So when you are a network, if there is an impact in one place, it cascades to every other place. So the awareness was important, and binding together the team who are left alone. What will happen to me? Will I lose my job like everyone else is losing? That helped bind the team and work as a cohesive force. We engaged every customer at least twice. And since we were risk mitigated to start with in terms of multiple segments, we did do a lot of FMCG, we did do a lot of agriculture, we did do a lot of medical equipment, because medical supplies, long distance, that market was not so mature, and we never got into it in an opportunistic fashion. We kept on serving all the largest of customers across the country. And the bottom line is this: in terms of the margins and in terms of the performance of the company overall, not in terms of business size, we were back to pre-COVID days, even in the month of May. April was one where we actually took a dip and everything was there. So in a summary, the results prove it, but the bottom line was engage everyone, keep in touch with everyone, understand that there are human beings all across. But your customer is as unsure as what we are ourselves, and our team is definitely unsure. You have to assure them that they have their jobs, there's no change in their compensation, they have to keep on working. The difference was that yes, we were technology enabled, and right from the time when we started in 2015, we were fully enabled to be operating from home. So everyone has a laptop, everyone has a smartphone, everyone has a dongle. So we didn't lose touch with any of the 220 persons throughout this time. So that's where we are. Saurabh, any questions? You let me know later.
Yeah, I will definitely come back to you. So I'll go to Gautam, and Anjani talked about people's safety, and when it comes to people's safety, that's the most important thing one has to look at, for your enterprise. So when it all started, so how did you react, and maybe the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome the most critical part of uh, the problem?
So I'll kind of take a limited view on this, because for me, people who are working in the office,
Yeah.
and that is the extent of my I think either Siddhant or
Yeah, of course.
or somebody else can even take this question, who are actually dealing, or Pushkar can take this question and say that, okay, what is the real issue there? But I have some view. So my office is not open. My office is not open for another 2 months. I know that, right? 1st August is the date, but we're not open. We are working from home. We all have laptops. We made sure that the logistics of the laptop to the employee and their internet is taken care of. They're working comfortably from the home. So that is a limited view. I know it's not logistics in any way. From what I'm hearing from my partners is that they are making a lot of effort. So even Ecom Express or other partners also came up with their own guidelines, and they published those guidelines to our customers, to us, everywhere. And they said that what are the things that they are taking. So where are they using PPE kits? How are they measuring temperature of the people who are walking into the warehouses or the fulfillment centers or the processing centers? What is the temperature of the person who is going out for delivery? So I think they have put their checkpoints at different levels, and I think that is what they've been doing. Though I think that would have been costing them some money also, and I'm sure that there's a lot of pressure that these guys also have on. But I'll let them take this question.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
they'll be the best guys to
Sure.
give answers
Pushkar,
in detail.
if you can take that question.
Right. See, if you think about March 23rd, when it really hit, everyone was just taken by surprise, and there were questions whether or not to continue or to continue. While there was guideline that you could continue with essentials, but what constitutes essentials? Are essentials only, let's say, medicines and groceries? Some would argue that even laptops are essentials, given you had kids at home and you would want them to continue with the studies. There was confusion around that. There was initially confusion around passes uh, for the last mile delivery people, for, let's say, truckers. Would they be able to move within the state, interstate? So we kind of constituted 6 or 7 different teams within the company, and we realized you have to divide and conquer these to come to different solutions. So number one was mostly around securing the shipments. On an average day, we would do 5 to 10 lakh shipments every day. And in network of with 20-30 lakh shipments across the country, you would have to ensure that all of those are secured, because we would have to either deliver them to the end consignees or give it back to the shippers. So ensuring that all the trucks, all the shipments are getting accounted for. Then, as Gautam mentioned, the protocols, given that we had to continue with essentials, what kind of guidelines would be needed? Number one is the guidelines coming out of the government. Number two is talking to the field executives and what would make them safe. At that point in time, if masks were not mandated, and we thought that no, masks would make our frontline executives more secure, we made those investments and got that. We got thermal fogging into place. We got temperature checks, etc. So those are all the sort of protocols that were started. A third was, essentials, to be honest, was less than 10% of our business. I mean, if non-essentials were not moving, anyone could tell you that e-commerce volumes were down to a tizzy. So there was this element of grocery coming in. So we had a new business team that went out and used the existing feet on street to deliver essentials, whether it's the essential packages from our existing shippers or onboarding new sellers. A fourth would be more around, let's say, communication to the employees and the people at large, right? Early on, news started coming in that while the government did not want you to fire any people, but there were layoffs that had started across the industry. So our management took a call that we are not going to lay off anyone. We started outreach programs to assure people that they remain where they are. Unlike many players in the industry, we've primarily been a salary-based company so far. So 98% plus of our field executives were based in their home locations. They did not move out, contrary to some of the industries where which relied on gig workers, where there were mass migrations and manpower was not available. So those are some of the initiatives that we took very early on. And then as we talk about, let's say, May, when the lockdown one kind of started opening up, or whether you got it unlocked, where there was categorization into red, green, and amber zones. So obviously tracking what are containment zones, what are these different zones, what would be allowed to move, what would not move, and constant communication, as Anjani mentioned, with the customers. Just like you're prepared at a time like this, no one has any idea. If you would ask the customer, what's your plan for next month? They would give you that confused look, like, what are you talking about? No one knows what's going to happen. So, I mean, a lot of communication with the frontline employees, with the customers is what got us through. And if you talk about right now, we've obviously got all those checks and balances in place. And e-commerce volumes, given that people are primarily at home, are up at least 30-40% in our case. So it's good days.
Pushkar, if I can come to you, with
Yes,
the same question. Yeah, hi.
Thank you, Saurabh. Saurabh, so just to quickly introduce, we are aggregators of small trucks, and we help brands with their urban deliveries within city logistics. Luckily for us, we started seeing tremors of COVID early March, and we kind of distinct between a COVID impact and a lockdown because both have fairly different impacts on our businesses. Early March, this is before the lockdown, we started observing that drivers were hesitant to do those deliveries, and for the right reasons, because there were some rumors around health safety issues as well. And that's when we kind of got into action to procure masks, sanitizers, circulated trainer videos on our applications, got some COVID insurances, and it was all just because of good intention to kind of help them wade through these times. And then after that, 3 weeks after that is when lockdown happened. And as soon as lockdown happened, the regulators and police authorities came down heavily, resorted to lathi charges for places where these delivery boys were doing deliveries, which also impacted our supply side again. Right now, these are all individual small truck owners where we worked with local authorities to enable essential passes for them. Now, again, it was done with an intention of them being able to ply on the roads and get their livelihoods. What we did realize was, as soon as Anjali mentioned, after the 4th day of lockdown, we started seeing our suppliers back on track with about 70% of our fleet was up and running again. So at a monthly level, we worked with close to 15,000 trucks across 15 cities, and 70% of it was back on track. And I think it was a little bit of foresight, or probably, intangible benefits such as procuring insurances, so on and so forth, which kind of gave them a lot more comfort. And these benefits were otherwise not available to them, right? As soon as we did this, we started observing and we started seeing more transactions happening on the essential front, wherein what we started to do was to work with brick and mortar retailers to help them with online deliveries, leveraging our experience by working with an Amazon, Big Basket, so on and so forth. So I think that's as a sector, the baseline shift was there. We saw some strong tailwinds coming our way in FMCG, essentials, agriculture, commodities, organized retailers. There was decline in, as Sid rightly mentioned, in 3PL volumes was lower because there was control on state border transactions as well. And we had some benefit because we are restricted inside a city. So that's a challenge which we kind of was not met with. With that in place, we did see some strong tailwinds coming our way between a few sectors. But overall, April was a dull month, as Anjani rightly mentioned. But I think what it taught us was being equitable. It might not pay backwards in probably the near future, but in a medium term, it kind of helps you bring that trust and transparency to your frontline workers. And you'd be surprised that while lockdown was there, we were seeing organic growth of truckers looking for work on our platform.
Okay.
So that's what COVID meant for us.
Would there be any reason for that? You said that there was an organic growth of truckers.
Absolutely. So even we kind of wanted to go deeper into it. There was a lot of conversations where people were migrating back to their hometowns, and these are typically folks who come in from rural parts of country. Which was rightly so, because we felt they've been given moratorium for the trucks which they've bought because they're individual driver owners, and then they should rightly go back. And it kind of intrigued us, which is where we kind of dived in deep to understand most of these trucks are financed by informal money lenders, which meant morat was no longer an option for them, which is why they were looking for work. And if it was not for an organized partner, there was no passes, which resulted in police beating them. There was no insurances or masks or trainer videos or protocols, as Sid rightly mentioned, which is why we started seeing a lot of surge in our organic growth of our truckers. So with lockdown, none of our field force was out there. We weren't proactively acquiring trucks. We were seeing transactions going up and interest of supply increasing what was there to a pre-COVID level. And I think that has brought in a mindset shift to these truck drivers who were, again, similar to what a client would resort to: what's the cost, what's the earnings, so on and so forth. But realize the importance of intangible benefits which come, which goes a long way in building a more resilient supply chain.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Ishpreet, I'll come to you. So, definitely, I mean, as Pushkar mentioned that, there are opportunities always, newer opportunities that come up. So, largely the logistics sector still remains quite unorganized, as you said that, a lot of people are still have to pay to money lenders. So, they do on their own. So, is this and now, increasingly more and more people are going to rely on deliveries for home doorstep deliveries or otherwise as well. So do you think this is a right moment that, the sector can capitalize and, and maybe more money would come in and more players would have, or more innovations would come in?
Sure. I'll try probably, so I'll take a step back and probably just try to cover how we see logistics sector as. So basically, if you, as you rightly mentioned, that it constitutes a certain portion of GDP, which is quite high, 13-14%. If you go overall, see the TAM of the market of the urban logistic itself is $35 billion. And naturally, that what it entails is a disruptive play across the spectrum, right, across the value chain. Now, since the series is resilience, and you're talking about the sectors which have actually come across, I think logistics is a very critical sector. It is the backbone on the basis of which all of us are residing at our home, getting what we want. It just because on the underlying logistics aspect, which all of these guys and larger ecosystem is trying to cover. I think there is, especially during pandemic, there's been a silver lining for the sector. And the reason partly is what Pushkar tried highlighting. There are 4-5 factors which drives that in a large manner. First of all, when actually we started funding this sector, we funded a company called Revivo, right? It's one of the largest in this sector in 2016. And that is a time when some of the corporates were trying to rely on the faster way of transmitting goods from one place to another through various modes. Now, with the advent of e-com and doorstep deliveries, what you mentioned, right? The Amazons and Flipkarts coming up the curve in terms of ensuring that they take larger volumes. All of the tech-enabled businesses and logistics have further got limelight, and from a perspective, they become very critical for the overall sector. Also, what pandemic has also resulted in that since we've been more technology-led and large portion of this disruption, another pillar of this sector is the driver partners or the vendors who supply or who owns the trucks, right? They are, as Pushkar mentioned, they are not very much a part of the formal economy in terms of either getting finance or having technological enablement to get drives in terms of doing trips on day-to-day perspective. So all of the aspects actually have come together during today's time, and probably all of the players were trying to play in various spectrum because the industry has also opened up. There are various players. Actually, it has resulted in positive momentum for the driver partners in terms of getting possibly more trips. There are now disruption in terms of getting them formally engaged on the on the financing piece in terms of ensuring that they are not again. This is still a large gap in terms of being reliable towards the informal player sector of financing. So broadly, these 3-4 parameters, right? We consuming fresh at our home, ensuring that the quicker delivery or swifter delivery happens at our home. All of these factors actually gives it a tremendous push, and that's how we see this as. I think we've just partnered with Let's Transport in terms of ensuring that the scale up and the kind of resilience they have seen as a company in terms of really coming up the revenue. Kind of a V-shaped recovery the companies which are seeing in terms of doing deliveries has really attracted us towards this sector. We've been funding it quite actively, and we see that there'll be a large momentum if you're able to maintain your margins while doing all of this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, definitely. I believe, according to me, like UPI has done to what payments, like it has made a rail on which all businesses, all payments can be done through. I mean, if there is a proper logistics, infrastructure, all the businesses can rely on that, and have a very. So, Gautam, I'll come to you and ask you that. So, this situation, as I said, that it's very important that the logistics is built in a way so that other businesses can kind of leverage this logistics, the entire chain or the supply chain, and do their businesses. So, what do you think is the next step that needs to be taken in terms of logistics, which we have been lacking till now and needs to be done, which you might have observed, working with so many players around you?
So I'll try and take answer the question, but from a different stand of a seller or a seller who's selling directly to the consumer. I'll try and take e-commerce view on it. But I want to start with two things. The problem with India or how our businesses run, even if it's e-commerce or non-e-commerce, is that we have a very low number of digitization, right? So it's single-digit digitization that we are adopted today, and we also are only about 2 to 3% of our economy is organized. Everything is not organized, right? And when such situations come together, a pandemic has hit us. Right now, we have Now, everything is, there are several problems which will come. Getting the business and economy back up together, the only way of doing that is if you're organized and there is, there's a clean form of communication, there's clean policies, and then you make sure that everything gets back. But that's only happening if you're organized. Otherwise, if you're unorganized, then nothing will reach you. I think what pandemic would make us do and is doing is that it's putting a lot of things organized now. You will find people taking loans from organized partners. You will find people going to logistics which are more organized and not unorganized. Every sector, be it payments, be it uh, be it management of your own businesses through accounting softwares, etc., etc. Everything will start moving towards being more organized and then being non-organized. So I think that is something which will change in the economy and that will impact all the sectors. And logistics is one very important sector which will support. When it comes to just to answer the question that you were asking me, what will change is, I think what is changing is that air transportation has completely finished. Everything is largely surface transportation. Sellers are okay with that now. What I would see is that people will start adopting models where they will try and place the goods of their customers, or their goods closer to the customer. So if the customer is ordering from, say, in southern part of the country, the goods will lie in Bangalore or some other city near to that location instead of coming from Delhi. So you will find people moving towards that more now. Second thing which is very important is that because, as I said, digitization will become important because offline, this is not, everybody thought this will go away in July, right? Nobody said it, but everybody believed that July will be the month that we'll be out of our houses and going for a nice lunch and then working from our offices. That is not happening, right? This is going for another 6 months. At least it will have 6 months and then you'll have trickling effects for a year. So 1.5 years of this. People will still not go to malls, you will still not go to restaurants. So I think what is going to happen is that because you're still not going to do that, a lot of these businesses will have to go online. They were either, some of them who were not doing it are starting moving it, and they know, and they're doing unique things, right? For example, now I got a message from Good Earth, right? There's a retail shop in Delhi who says that, okay, we will do a video call with you and you can come on that video call and buy stuff and we'll have it shipped to you. So that those are the level of unique, so that's also e-commerce in its way, right? But it's not going and pasting in, you're not doing a transaction on Amazon, but you're doing a transaction with somebody in the shop, but through a WhatsApp call. So that are the new formats which will change. And now everything like hyper local, single same day deliveries, next day deliveries from the warehouses, again, what Ecom Express is doing, or even what Pushkar is doing, right? All those things, especially talking about e-commerce, all these new innovations, and these innovations which are earlier there, will start picking up, right? All these formats were already created. For example, let's take an example of hyperlocal. Apart from food, it was not able to grow into any other sector. They were not able to scale it, right? E-commerce, retail e-commerce never happened with hyperlocal. But I think this is the time when retail e-commerce is happening to hyperlocal. Grocery was never that successful. It's happening now, right? So all those changes, and logistics industry has been trying to do it. I think now is the time that they've built all that tech, they've built all that work, all that processes, and put these products together. But now their adoption is coming in. So I think Korea companies are happy because they've built everything. They've tried everything in the last 3-4 years. Now is the time to use them so the sellers can use it.
And we talked about grocery. We have Geo also jumping in that fray, and
Yeah.
of course there are others. So I'm sure there's going to be a financial. Anthony, I'll come to you. So as Gautam was saying that there are various changes that are happening. At least in the e-commerce space, which was there, so in the long haul truck transportation thing. We still, I think, we have a long way to go in making everything organized or maybe tech-enabled. So what would be your take on that? That what are the changes that we are going to see in that space, especially? If you can unmute yourself, Anjan, if you can unmute.
Sorry about that. So I'll answer that in two parts. One is our own experience, and then what we are doing about it to help the ecosystem. So we used to hold true that you can't engage a customer, new customer. We do only B2B, obviously, since these are all long distance and they're all large companies, large engagements. We always held that large companies love to see you face to face, initiated, and then don't want any sight of you. You keep on delivering and just keep on updating the reports. We structured ourselves exactly in that fashion till COVID hit. And then we said, hey, we got to engage and try to sign up contracts as well with this. Yeah, all this online bidding and finalizing is there, but they would always want you to look you in the eye before signing on the dotted line. Core industry, steel, power, signed up contracts, multi-crore contracts remotely. We had rounds of investments done remotely, all on video call. But unfortunately, there is another part which we have not yet grappled with, is being able to take out. So in the long distance space, there are about 6 or 7 players in the whole thing. The 6 or 7 players usually are not as digitally savvy in the tech place. On the tech place, they are, yes, there is a guy who is going to be able to do it and going to help me. They still are in between. So the start of an engagement, of a brand new engagement, is very troublesome still. But otherwise, online, business as usual is just waiting to happen. Even contracting happened online, and definitely post, the initial setup, everything. I'm hoping that over the next few weeks, if not a couple of months, even the middle part of onboarding everyone and getting team meetings on video calls like we are doing here would all be done. Now, what we are doing about it in terms of unorganized is this. So we ourselves consider ourselves to be the organized piece. So we have created a platform in the classic platform sense of the business, where the end customer will be able to initiate with his contracted as well as non-contracted vendors any kind of an interaction, including telling them to place vehicles. Because the split of portfolio of all large companies is contracted, and so that it takes care of about 90%, and then the spots which are on what you would call as authorized vendors. So engaging with them needs, usually so far it has been all calls. So I send you an indent, let's say 50 indents I send out, I'll have to physically call 40, 50 guys and send out emails and then call and chase up for the presence of the truck at my factory or warehouse to be able to ship. Okay. So we have created this platform and will be accessible on the web and the mobile, where the fleet owner will be able to confirm, the driver will be able to confirm, the entire journey of the trip for contracted customers will be through the platform. And you can also negotiate with those who are authorized, which means vendor approved and risk mitigated by large organizations, who will be, they are a small part of the overall pool of tens of thousands who are there in the industry. And those are the guys who will be sent a communication. They will do a bid. There'll be online negotiation and close. And then rest of confirmation of truck, loading of truck, all the online documentation retained throughout, electronic POD, billing, invoicing, everything done electronically, invoice verification, sent for payment, and bill discounting for the transporter. And that whole suite, that full platform is what we have created. And we are taking it out into the market. We are still not sure whether we want to do it in August when we are hoping that the monsoons will be towards its fag end. But we are going to send this out and be promoting it actually on digital marketing and on video calls. Now, all this, we don't know where it will pan out. Obviously, we'll start with some of our own customers who already know us, where it will be simpler. But let's see how it goes. But that is what we think will at least organize the long distance transport. I would imagine that looking at whatever we are doing, there are many, many startup companies in this industry, and they're very smart. Everybody would have started working on it, and sooner or later, over the last few years, I would imagine they would have moved to a platform mode of operation. Platform as in the classic sense of the platform business model. And if they have done that and the technology to back it, they would be maybe a heartbeat away from being able to provide this end-to-end platform for the entire ecosystem. The ecosystem includes digital payments, where you straight away at zero cost to you, you're able to buy fuel, which happens to be about 55% of the cost of your overall trip, and pay electronic toll connected to banks, connected to the national toll system. And that happens to be close to 12% of your overall cost in long distance. All this is done electronically. The owner would typically be sitting in one city. The truck would be in a second city, the destination point in a third city, the driver on different phones, different technologies. But we enable the tracking, we enable everything technologically, and everything that we have is constrained within our 200 odd people. So started, ended. We have at any point of time 1,000 trips moving around here and there. So every day maybe a few hundred trips which start and a few hundred trips which end. But that's not very large. And I definitely know that there are at least 2 or 3 other startups with a fair amount of funding who will be able to build this platform, and that will help the journey. Because finally, what is the organized to unorganized? The other way around, my apologies. Unorganized to organized. Legal transactions, ability to be able to have a financial history so that you can get authorized source, organized lending. You do that, you're definitely in the organized space. And that's all we are focusing on. So the integration for bill discounting, the integration for online billing with digital signatures is everything that we have pieced into this. So that's that's my thesis, and we are acting upon it.
All right.
I'm sure there will be equal number of innovations outside.
Yeah, I'm sure. So before I go to my next question, I'll just request our attendees to keep posting questions. We'll take them in another maybe 15 minutes or so. So, I will come to you, Siddharth, and, I was just going through some statistics and I saw that, an overwhelming, and as Ranjani was saying that, a lot of innovation is being done on the road transport of between cities and all. But still, India still relies heavily on, railways to do. I'm talking about macro sense right now. So, do you think that these things, these innovations that are there, can change this ratio through which logistics players use railways compared with roadways or waterways or airways?
See, it's not like people did not want to use railways at all. It was in the control of the government, right? And we discussed it multiple times internally. There are considerations around handling, around storage, around tax, around fair and transparent pricing. All of that is changing. During COVID also, there was news that Amazon and Flipkart experimented with the railways. I think there are positive signs from the government where they're trying to privatize movement, where they're trying to invite more and more private players into that. But it's still some time before people can get the kind of services that they expect. Obviously, in developed countries, the unit cost of moving goods via railways is much cheaper. But I think in India, there's still some time to go. However, if you talk about extending the theme of, let's say, how ways of doing things will change. In India, even in road transport is just the line haul. If you look at, let's say, the last mile delivery, etc., a lot is changing. Address quality is a big issue in our country. I mean, you would get addresses like, okay, you come to Faizabad town, inki dukaan, and call me. And that's written on address packets. And then you have to call the consignee and they would come and collect the packets. Now, if, let's say, marketplaces started capturing the lat long of the consignee and shared that with us, and then we could direct our field executives to go and deliver the place to the exact pinpoint, that's going to help. That's going to improve the efficiency of the overall ecosystem. A lot of consumers, I mean, the problem is, this is an industry trend that if you have a prepaid package versus a cash on delivery package, the chances of conversion of a prepaid package are much higher. Given that if you're in a society, you could leave it with the guard. If you've already paid for it, the propensity to accept the packet is higher. Now, given COVID, a lot of people are hesitant to use currency notes, and the share of packets that are prepaid has gone up. Now, all of these things are leading to efficiency. So, efficiency can come through different things. I think the digital interventions right now in better routing, more intelligent, let's say, delivery algorithms, etc., are going to give the first wave of efficiency. And by the time this efficiency comes in, and there is privatization of, let's say, some of the railway sidings, etc., the next wave of efficiency will come through. And as you said, from a 14%, hopefully that figure should start going down.
Yeah. There are already various experiments that have been done to make because railway is a giant network in the country, and it could be utilized efficiently. It's my belief, so it can bring down the unit cost a lot, but that has not happened. But yes, of course, that's another point.
There are various challenges with the railway right now, especially for moving our kind of goods, which require.
Have you tried it?
Not during my tenure. Our companies experimented with that in the past. Most of our founders are industry veterans with 30 plus years experience each. So they've tried it in the past. The overall experience with handling and all, I think, needs to be improved further. And even I think the commercials right now, you need to book the entire rake. We would only have a few bags of parcels that would go from one point to another. So there's a long way to go before that becomes more efficient, before there's more transparency and accountability for the goods, before we can start using them.
You'll be surprised to know that the parcel vans in the normal trains also accept private thing, and these are handled by just a couple of companies across the country. People have not tried to use that possibly. So that's another.
So we're open to exploring that. We keep talking to the railways from time to time. There is a start that needs to be made. We'll keep exploring it.
Ishkit, I'll come to you now, and so as I said that we there are many areas which have not been explored, and so if you have to put your money right now in terms of the kind of innovation that you would want to see in the logistics space, especially when it comes to say long haul trucking and intercity transport. So what would that be that you would be looking at?
So Saurabh, basically, I think what we have been judicious about in the past 4-5 years is to understand the real potential of each and every particular facet of the business. So when you say a long haul business like a intercity business, now there, what kind of requirements, possibly what kind of clients you have, and what kind of opportunity you try to basically disrupt. So if it is an unorganized, highly unorganized sector in terms of ensuring that there are long hauls and it takes time, a particular 5 days to reach, let's presume, location X to Y, what is the disruption that those kind of companies are bringing in order to reduce the time for a corporate? Also, I think there are a lot of challenges in terms of moving perishable commodities, right? Especially in terms of logistics players who've been the niche players who are doing it. But again, there we've just probably seen a couple of players who have been doing it in a very particular manner in terms of building a cold chain around it and moving intercity. In fact, we have funded traditional players through our banking days earlier, and now more of new age businesses. The new age businesses, I think, brings in that flavor of giving it more of either a relay model in terms of ensuring that there are various handovers which they have built, or probably having a temperature controlled environment where a corporate can track certain things. Now, those are the things which traditionally have not been pondered over by traditional businesses. So anything which actually has improves the timelines for the end customer, gives a lot of play at the vendor's end, and also basically ensures a higher quality of the product reaching at the last premise, are any businesses which in a tech-enabled manner actually hovers around that, gives us a good opportunity. I think there have been a lot of, within intercity, there have been a lot of players who've been looking at intercity plus, intracity plus warehouses. That's another play which we were excited about till say 1.5 years back. Now I think the existing players have enough market to capture there, and probably they can take a step up. Whereas I think intercity can have better opportunities because let's presume a farmer at a very remote location in a village still would use local transportation to cater to and go to a certain place or point where all the players comes into existence, right? So when you go to a tier 3 or tier 4 existence, I think it's still done in a very nascent or in a traditional manner. If there can be disruption around there, when you talk about new age business, new age India, when you talk about digitally enabled India, all of these initiatives has to be reaching out to the last mile at the tier 3, tier 4 cities as well. As of now, I think there have been big opportunity there. It's majorly concentrating around large metros or intercity within those metros, which majorly most of the startups have been. I know there are inherent challenges doing that business, not an easy business, but I'm just saying that anything which probably disrupts that piece of portion actually has a lot of exciting factors for a large scale.
So, I know that, you're also very much into agri-tech as well. So I'll just stay with you. And so the solutions that are given by agri-tech players in that space, have you seen logistics being a part of those solutions that are being offered by the agri-tech players? Or you still think that's something that has to be done?
Absolutely. In fact, we've looked at various agri-tech companies across products, right? And all as I said, that logistics is the backbone of the sector, not in terms of the sheer component of the GDP, but what it serves in terms of the products. And I touched upon the perishable nature of the product, right? Logistics still they heavily rely on logistics in order to give superior quality products, which will be much in demand going forward. All of us want to consume fresh going forward, right? Especially in today's time, we've got more conscious about what we are consuming. All of these products, especially on fruits and vegetables side, would inherently require a huge bent in terms of logistics playing that role. So agri-tech actually, some of the new agri-tech startups who have come have been using that display very well, where they're saying that can we supply fresh fruits and vegetables using the new age companies and do a disruption there. So, but yeah, I think that there is a critical role there.
Okay. So we'll take some of the questions that we have got from our Facebook viewers. So one of the questions that we've got is that what is the future of logistic industry with blockchain technology? So Gautam, if I can come to you and ask you that has it anything to do with the blockchain? Can blockchain be a part of it? I'm not sure if it can be.
I have not explored to that sense that
anyone here have heard about blockchain to be? I'm not sure that can be in any way, but if anyone can.
By the fact of blockchain, it is a network, right? So you can use it, but how you use it is I'm not done.
I think what Anjani highlighted in terms of what they're trying to build can have probably some element of that going forward.
Yeah. Anjani, if you can.
So our solution actually has elements of blockchain, but we ourselves are the arbitrators of the protocol. We are the designers of the protocol. So the principles of blockchain is actually, blockchain is a jargon. The principles of blockchain are basically when you have, hundreds and thousands of players, everyone is on the same protocol and everyone has the same company to which they go to. And that is one of the multiple sources. And IBM made a big noise about it. But technologically speaking, and as you can see, I've been around the block. Blockchain as a concept has been there, except that it's within the control of a person. When I say a person, means one company or two companies, or the consortium. The largest that we built was for a consortium of Wall Street players. This is back about 10 years back when they were trading amongst themselves, and all the trades used to be routed through this platform, and this was a settlement engine as well. So it was a physical blockchain which is there. But in today's date, you do not have the ability to be able to say that we have a uniform understanding and uniform protocol, which everyone will gear up to, and the finance sector as well as the logistics sector, and everyone will align to that till there is something which catches momentum. So it's a while, but the principles of that have been around. So whatever, the way I see it is, we are not going to invest in IBM technology to be able to deploy blockchain. The value add is about converting an unorganized set of guys to organized. And they need things which are available to them at a subscription point of max 100 rupees per day. If that is a point which they have to operate, if not 50 rupees or free, if that is not the operating point, then we can't have any of this. And blockchain is when there are unknown parties in the chain. Here, at least in long distance, there are known parties in the chain and the payments are tracked. And even when you move, one of the places where it will be very critical is in agri movement actually.
Yes.
Very limited amount of agri movement, but in the agri movement, when we are talking of temperature controls and there are multiple parties involved, I believe it is one of the biggest value. It doesn't matter who is the settler and who is the tracker. The entire chain decides that this is the person who will track the temperature and make sure that all the data comes in. The amount of value add that will provide to that will be huge. Okay. The freshness and whether or not it is actually organic can also do with blockchain. But these are the applications. Our focus, unfortunately, is more on grains, and in perishables, we do only certain specific parts because our entire energy is about solving the long distance. So we do a lot of grains, we do a lot of specialized grains also, seasonal all around. So we haven't really moved on to blockchain, but those are a couple of applications which could be there.
Saurabh, just to add, I think the more refrigerated content or the underlying good it is, more organization actually move with. So there the blockchain relevance will come in more. If it is a flattish trade, right, it would not generally require the essence of that, what you're trying to establish. You can see the movement through a blockchain, whether it's a financial product or a underlying good which is getting routed through a logistics platform. So the more, I think the more organizations gets involved in a particular trade, the relevance of blockchain comes in there. So I think it would be more used for refrigerated kind of perishable products rather than plain and vanilla products.
Okay. All right, fair enough. We'll take, we have a question from Sarthi. If we can give the mic to Sarthi, please. Sarthi, you'll have to unmute and speak.
Hello.
Yeah, Sarthi, go ahead.
Am I audible?
You are, please.
So my question is to all panelists that if anyone of you has heard about Rodi Delivery, which runs in Atlanta, where basically any common person is allowed to make deliveries like a Uber for deliveries. So will that type of system can run in India or something? I would like to have some suggestions on the scene.
Should I try and take a crack of it?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just take a portion of it. So in India, Amazon, Myntra, I don't know Flipkart or not, but they have programs like this, right? You could come and sign up as an individual, and a portion of the demand that they have, you have to go to their warehouse and do a last mile delivery on their own tech. So part of that is actually blockchain, if you think about it, right? It's a public view, and you can come and I can go and pick up a part of the shipment from Amazon and deliver it. So there is, the only thing which is missing in India is that one platform which can service everybody. I think that has not happened, but things like these are happening where different programs by different large demand aggregators. So demand aggregation, you can say, and Amazon is also a demand aggregator in that sense, right? It's a large e-commerce company who is aggregating a lot of demand from different sellers. And they have programs like this where they have their hubs or their regional hubs where you can go and pick it up from there and deliver. There are one or two interesting companies in this space also. There's a company called Elastic Run who's doing it, but it's not publicly. You can't just go publicly and sign up with them. But the program is there, but it's closed right now. But I'm sure it's going to get opened. India will surely open, and there'll be a replicated model like one that you just mentioned.
If I will just add, I mean, as Gautam said, this model is already prevalent. We're also launching something like this soon, but it has to be built over time. You would not hand out 4 or 5 iPhones worth lakhs of rupees to someone on the first day.
Yeah.
There is this element of relationship and consistency that people who are gig workers have to show, and then as the trust increases over time, they would get more and more deliveries to do. So the answer is yes, it's possible.
Perfect. All right. Uh, we have one more question on our Facebook, which says that do you think COVID-19 has pushed logistics players to look at drones for last mile delivery? Are drones the future of delivery? So, any comments on that? Maybe because Siddharth Pushkar, if you can tell me that is that something that we would be, because I know that drone deliveries right now. I don't know how much is possible, but still.
See, right now I told you that even finding addresses of consignees is a major challenge. So even if you were to send a drone, where would it go? It's very difficult to even geocode location accurately to, let's say, 500 meters and say this is where the drone has to go. Now, if it were an apartment society or a home, does the drone knock? Does a person come outside to like receive it? So there are many practical challenges even beyond policies in the country. So I'm not saying no. I think it will take some time. China and other developed nations are doing some experiments, but it's not really widespread right now.
I can come in actually looking at a couple of drone companies, and to be honest, I think I beg to differ from that perspective, just because the tier one, so everything can generally starts from tier one, right? And then it percolates down. Even in today's time, we do not have every solution for tier three or tier four city, right? But if you want to probably imbibe a solution which is a long-term play, it has to start from somewhere. Amazon has been toying with drone delivery, and they've made it a success overseas. I think there's certain things where they're bringing to India. There are a couple of drone companies which actually is starting, one with Agritech and another with something similar, started with surveillance and now going towards Logitech. So I think there are companies who are trying to toy with this. It's naturally a very far-fetched thing, but if you're talking about an evolution of technology in all the manner, especially in today's time, it can't be possibly ruled out in the next, say, 1 to 2 years how it will pan out.
Pushkar, you would want to add to that?
Yes, Saurabh, I think I'm a believer of technology, and drone happens to be one of the formats of the way you do a delivery, right? Taking a step back, it could be an electric cargo truck as well, right? Which is a step ahead of what probably where we are diesel engines. So drone, yes, the future is there. I think the challenge which exists in India is for these technologies to make sense, you need to have a lot of data which comes in, which kind of iterates and improves its performance, right? The reason why Tesla does very well in autopilot in the US is because it's fairly structured. I mean, you don't have cows coming in and butting the car probably from one point or the other. Those practical challenges which Siddharth kind of mentioned, someone needs to actively solve on it. The challenge is most of these technologies are built outside. I mean, the evolution of technology happens there first, where challenges are a little different in India. So till the time you have a company of drone which is solving Indian problems, it is probably a 2-3 year out journey where you would see some practical solutions, economically viable solutions coming in.
Okay, all right, all right. We just about got 2 minutes, so I have two very basic but I think interesting questions, so I'm going to ask them anyway. So first is that there's a question that has come in, is that is bicycle-based delivery viable in cities at small distance level? Have we tried it, or have we seen it, or have we thought about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, please, Gautam.
Bicycle, you said, right?
Yeah, bicycle. Yeah.
So I think it's happening all through here. Everywhere bicycle deliveries is happening, and I can surely I have been delivered a lot of packets on bicycle as a consumer. I know that where Amazon or Myntra runs their programs where they engage local kirana stores to do deliveries at the time of increase in orders at the time of their sales and everything, where they have a lot of orders. They engage smaller parties in the local areas. All of them actually come on cycles, right?
Sort of just it's a counterintuitive question. I mean, my memory takes me back. All the postmen used to deliver letters on a bicycle.
No, it was the question was more about the question was I know that's why I said that it's a very interesting that I would, because we have always seen postmen coming in cycle,
exactly,
or
right?
even in our small hometowns when we used to make a phone call to our grocery wala, he would send, actually the staff would come in a bicycle with thola and do that. Things have changed, and now maybe going back again there. So the question especially was for the urban areas, for small
absolutely.
distances. So
I think people are doing it today.
Yeah.
You, if you're talking about EV motor kind of a bicycle, that's
Maybe.
might
Yeah,
be in play.
maybe a Yulu can start
Yeah,
thinking
absolutely.
of you can do something like that.
At the end of
Definitely.
the day, it's a form factor, right? You could choose anything. You could choose a tri-wheeler, you could choose a four-wheeler, you could choose a
There are a
two-wheeler.
lot of
It's a
ways
form
there.
factor.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just there is one more question. I think this again goes to the adds to the first question that we've taken. That I would like to know what are the challenges in India to implement our idea of hyper local deliveries as roadies doing in Atlanta. I mean, I think we have already kind of
Yeah, I think
taken
so.
that question. So thank you, gentlemen, everyone. That was really it was really nice to have all of you here and. Very insightful for me as well to know much more about the logistics sector, and I wish to see you all again. And thank you, our attendees, to being here, and we'll see you again. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, Saurabh, an entrepreneur.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Meeting all of you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.